The robber unloaded his sniper rifle, then loaded 2 large-caliber armor-piercing rounds into the magazine. He then took up a position in a scorching sand pit under the blazing sun. Meanwhile, his accomplice, armed with a flamethrower, took cover behind a nearby sand dune, fully equipped. And together they waited silently for their prey to appear. After a long wait, a cash-in-transit van finally came slowly into view in the distance, just as the 2 police officers were chatting and laughing. A sand dune suddenly appeared ahead, blocking their path. One of the officers sensed something was wrong, and immediately requested instructions from headquarters. He then used the roof-mounted camera to survey the surroundings. After confirming there were no abnormalities, the driver prepared to continue on. He stepped on the gas to plow through, but the armored truck instantly sank into quicksand. Seeing his chance, Nick immediately took aim at the tires. The tires were instantly blown out, rendering the armored truck completely immobilized. The officers immediately realized the gravity of the situation and requested remote control authorization from headquarters, which revealed the robber's hiding spot. They then remotely operated a machine gun and opened fire on the robber's position. The vehicle was loaded with hundreds of gold bars and millions of dollars. Teammates hiding on the mountaintop launched a swift counterattack, shooting out the armored truck's camera, cutting off the live surveillance feed. Headquarters hoped the SWAT team would arrive at the scene as soon as possible. The robbers, lying in wait behind a sand dune, rushed to the armored truck with flamethrowers in hand. Under the scorching flames, the 2 officers had no choice but to open the doors and flee. However, just as the officers were about to escape, Nick took aim at them with his sniper rifle. The robbers hurried to the armored truck, quickly dug out the spare tire they had hidden earlier, and soon drove the armored truck to the designated location, pulling it into a pre-dug bunker to better cover their tracks. They had prepared a helicopter in advance. The sand was smoothed out by the wind from the rotor blades. After some deliberation, they realized the armored car's doors could only be opened from the inside, meaning there were still guards inside the vehicle. Just then, the sound of a helicopter echoed overhead. By this point, the sheriff had realized the armored car must be somewhere in this desert, and was preparing to launch a large-scale search of the area. Just as they were debating their next move, the armored truck's door slowly swung open. It turned out the officer inside had heard the commotion and realized his chance to fight back had arrived. Gripping his submachine gun, he launched a desperate counterattack. The robbers were caught completely off guard, and only Nick survived. Taking advantage of a lull in the officer's search, Nick picked up the submachine gun lying on the ground and opened fire wildly at the officer. The wounded officer retreated back into the vehicle. By now, Nick was the sole survivor of the robbery crew. He decided to make one last attempt. He used a cutting torch to slice through the vehicle's undercarriage, finally cutting a small hole in it. He fumbled for the circuit control panel, and the armored truck's steel door finally swung open. When he stepped forward to investigate, he discovered the officer was already dead. Then Nick saw inside the armored truck. Not only were there tens of millions in cash, but also an entire crate of gold bars. Overcome with joy, he immediately shut the door. He then dragged his injured body to find his girlfriend and shared the good news with her. The next day, the 2 prepared to flee with the money, but as soon as they arrived in the vicinity, they ran into the sheriff, who had come searching for them. What neither of them knew was that Jack, who had been piloting the helicopter, had already arrived at the armored truck ahead of them and was preparing to blow it open with explosives. Tens of millions in cash instantly turned into a shower of debris, burying all greed and sin beneath it. Watching the fruits of his labor over many days vanish in an instant into a flurry of paper scraps, Nick couldn't help but collapse to the ground, his face contorted into a bitter, despairing grimace. In the end, the greedy must pay a terrible price. But we must always remember, facing temptation and holding fast to our principles is the very foundation of our existence. That wealth, stained with blood and acquired against our conscience, ultimately brings nothing but emptiness.